Andy Fernandez, Director of Product Management here at HYCU. I want to thank you all for your time. I am going to get as fast as possible to the demo. We're going to actually show you one of the specific examples, which is Jira, and then we're also going to go over this for Google as well. First, though, what we want to talk about, though, is why Jira, right? We have a topological view of all the SaaS applications that we protect. But let's actually, what does it actually mean for a user to be able to protect and restore data within an application like Jira? And because Atlassian is extremely strategic, not only for us as a company, but for the Fortune 500, we wanted to show that example today, right? Over 230,000 people or customers are leveraging Atlassian services. 80% of the Fortune 500 depends on Atlassian services as part of their DevOps stack, their ability to release software, their ability to manage knowledge. If you look at the way that criticality is defined, it's always been an on-prem discussion. It's you have a tier 1 through 5 VMs, how critical are they? What are the RPOs? What are the RTOs? But Subbiah, our chief product officer, and I always talk about this. It's in the world of SaaS is how many people cry when something gets deleted? How many people are affected? That is your criticality. When email goes down, when your ability to access your code goes down, when data warehouses go down, what does that criticality look like? Some just very quick examples of how Fortune 500 companies depend on Jira, Bloomberg, Zoom, and Domino's. They depend on them to be able to release software, to manage bugs, to manage customer experiences, and ultimately to be able to have revenue. It's a critical aspect, and that's why we define it as business critical. But there's been a huge change. And this is not specific to Atlassian. This is specific to absolutely everybody. We all know that you're able to deploy Jira on server. You're able to do it on Datacenter, whether that's on-prem or in the public cloud. But where Atlassian is putting all their chips, all of their new features, all of their emphasis, their partner network, we've spoken to hundreds of customers. And what we realize is all roads lead to their SaaS offering, meaning Atlassian Cloud. They've already publicly announced an end of life for server, and they are quickly moving people away from Datacenter as well. Now, we all know the story, right? The moment somewhere goes to SaaS, you go through several steps. First, the person assumes it's SaaS. I don't need to worry about it. I'm covered. It's okay. But the truth is, as everybody in this room knows, and I think most organizations are starting to become aware, it's just because it's a SaaS does not mean it's not your responsibility. If you look at the Atlassian shared responsibility model, just like everybody else, just like Salesforce, just like AWS, they tell you, look, we're going to offload the management. We're going to offload the security. But when it comes to your data, if anything happens from a user level, the information that you host, but also the compliance, it's on you. Now, why is that so important? What I want to provide is a couple of examples as to why this is so important. There are 3 critical reasons. And by the way, these 3 reasons apply to every SaaS application out there, but it's extremely important within Atlassian. So we went to, I think it was Vegas, in Team 23. I don't remember these days which cities we go to. But we spoke to hundreds of customers at Atlassian Team 23. Everyone knows they eventually have to move to cloud, with the majority of them already moving to cloud. 95% of new deployments to Atlassian are via Atlassian Cloud. The thing that came up with every single conversation that we had was what we would call operational data loss. Deletions, whether malicious or accidental, corruptions, version control issues, just Murphy's Law. Everyone had a scenario where a developer accidentally deleted an entire instance, or even just specifically an epic or a bug. And just imagine for a second, though, what it's like to delete an epic in Jira. That is several weeks of work that can completely go out of the loop. It's extremely important that you're able to restore and recover. But you're going to hear me use the word restore a lot because that's the language a lot of people use within SaaS. The second critical reason why somebody needs to be able to protect themselves, having backup and recovery, emphasis on recovery, is cyber events and outages. If you think about Atlassian last year, had a massive outage. People were directly affected. Everyone had a lasting memory of that. And it was a lesson learned for a lot of people using SaaS for the first time. But also you have ransomware being the #1 target for SaaS being the #1 target for ransomware as well. And ultimately, I think the part that people also forget about is compliance. Being able to understand how long is Atlassian retaining our data for? We spoke to a customer who was a healthcare organization in the US. They are supposed to be storing their data every 7 years. They couldn't tell me how long was Atlassian storing their data within hot or cold storage. And that is a critical element of not only, hey, can you recover when you can, but also, are you compliant? Are you secure? With that being said, I think that's the part we all want to be able to get to. So what I'm showing you right now is Protege, as Goran has told you about, our data protection as a service platform. As an organization, everyone's able to log in via AD, Okta. But the most important part is, think of this as the single source of protection, the single source where you go to see, being able to manage, but also perform that restore, which is the most important topic of today. So when you look at, for example, let's take an Atlassian user, a company leveraging Jira, Jira Service Management, and Confluence. All they need to do is create an API token with an Atlassian. Immediately, and I'm talking within seconds, being able to connect to HYCU and being able to, first and foremost, see what instances do I even have in Jira? What projects am I running? Jira isn't just a one project, one instance type of SaaS. This is an extremely complex world with a lot of configurations, a lot of different departments leveraging. Goran can tell you all about that from firsthand experience leveraging Jira. So the first thing that you see, even specific to Jira within our graph, is you're able to understand, okay, as an engineering organization, what are we running? Apart from not only running cloud services, SaaS like Salesforce, but also things like Atlassian Confluence and even Jira, and understand, okay, out of everything that's been discovered, what is protected, what is not? Are we in compliance based on what we've decided as an organization? Now, I want to stop here because I want to give you what the before and after looks like. If you're an Atlassian Cloud user, you could also be asking me, well, Andy, these are very smart people at Atlassian. I'm sure there's a backup available to them. But just like every other SaaS that we talk about, it usually involves a data export. And as you already mentioned, anyone can export data. Anyone can back it up. So if you're a Jira Cloud user, you have an XML backup. Caveat being though, if you want to perform a full export, it's every 48 hours. So you don't even have a daily backup available. And exporting is one thing. We spoke to somebody who was a project manager at a bank. And if you think about that, actually, you don't no longer have backup admins for Atlassian Cloud. You have developers, scrum masters, project managers, even knowledge base owners as well. These people don't know how to script. So what she was doing was every Thursday was backup day. Every Thursday, she's manually exporting everything to a hard drive because she needed to check the box for the bank. And I asked her, like, okay, so somebody deletes a bug, an epic, what happens? She's like, I don't know, but at least I won't get fired. And that's what the critical aspect is. It's not about backup, it's about being able to rest at night, knowing that you can restore. The other piece is it's an incredible amount of time that it takes to be able to do so. What we've been able to do, as you've already mentioned, was you have two choices. You have your prepackaged standard policy. So let's grab one of the Jira instances here. Let's grab this one. Let me just do this. And you have two choices. You can assign the preset, prepackaged policies like gold, platinum, silver, or bronze. Or if you have very specific needs as an organization, you can determine your RPO, your RTO, and then also what is the storage target. So from there, you simply assign the backup, and then you're done. And that's ultimately what happens. Now, this goes from backup Thursdays to I've set and forget a policy for an entire Jira instance. The next piece that's most important, though, is the ability to restore. So let's grab something like this in Confluence. The majority of what people can do today, even if they're very good at scripting, you can only recover the entire instance. You cannot perform a granular recovery. Now, the reason why this is such a challenge within Jira is it's a complex place. There's a lot of granularity involved. If you could delete a sub issue, you could delete an attachment, you could delete an entire project. All of those represent extremely critical information. So what we're able to do, for example, if you take Confluence here, you can go at the space level, you can restore a page, you can restore an attachment. If you look at something like Jira, there's even more granularity just because of the nature of the SaaS application. From project to epic to task to story, attachment, and subtask. This wasn't even possible on Datacenter. It's not possible with an export, but it's possible being able to do so with HYCU. And by the way, what I'm showing you here, you can apply pretty much to every other SaaS application that we offer protection, just like Salesforce, Okta. What are the use cases that I need to be able to restore something granularly? You're seeing this in Jira here, and you're able to very quickly restore an entire project, or you can get into the attachment level. And then you simply can select what you want to protect. And then from there, as long as you have your naming convention, you can search and you can perform that restore.
For the SaaS piece, because quite often, especially Salesforce or HubSpot or those, there are often going to be some customized elements. Do those elements automatically appear because you're effectively seeing the live schema, or do they have to be represented in the integration? So if I have, custom field 4, but custom field 4 to my marketing ops team is the most important thing in the world, how, does that stuff auto discover as new fields are created in something that has an extensible schema?
Best answer.
The stoic
I love
answer
it.
of the day is
Short, sweet, and to the point.
Solid. It doesn't get better than that. Thank you.
What clarification question? The Atlassian plugin is built using the API that we've been talking about.
Yes.
Okay.
So all of the HYCU plugins are done through our cloud platform. So we ate our own.
What about synchronizing the backup for Jira and Confluence? Sometimes they are connecting, and there's some reference from the Confluence are referring to something that. Is there a way to synchronize and keep the protection?
So currently you apply the same policy on both of the instances, right?
Yes.
And the synchronization, this is something we are working on. This is the closest synchronization at this point in time, but definitely we are working on correlating, different types of sources into a modern application.
Okay.
More, I think your question related to the metadata that is linked between the data in the Confluence and Jira. Yes, I'm not sure we have the demo, but we can back that up.
Okay.
And when you restore that, the link is established to the Confluence.
Okay.
That is backed up.
Cool.
Great. I'm curious, who wrote this integration that we're seeing here? Is this something Jira did, or is this something you did in
HYCU.
HYCU? Okay. But the idea, the larger idea is that somebody else is going to be writing this integration, and you're just going to vet it. So you don't have to individually code each integration.
Exactly.
Yes.
There is not enough Goran Gorevskis in the world for 17,000, almost, but not quite there. But one of the critical elements of this as well is this, as he mentioned, we ate our own dog food or goat food. We wanted to make sure that can our developers do this on themselves with their own guidance to be able to do this very quickly? And the answer was yes. What we've already released with Jira, with Confluence, with service management, Salesforce, Okta, we're already the leading SaaS backup and restore provider of people recognized by Gartner. And this is just the beginning. We're now going to extend. You're going to see orders of magnitude more of SaaS.
So I'll give away a little bit more of the secret sauce for you.
I'm not allowed to give away information.
So I think behind the question is, how is the market taking this, right? And we have now 50 different apps signed up, which are all going through this process. So again, we've only just launched this, but our goal is to have 100 apps in the marketplace by the end of this year.
Okay. It's an aggressive goal. I like it.
So one of the things that,
Sorry, who creates, or have you defined the schema, how the data is stored, how it's, how do you do things like, how do you ensure I can do incrementals, or is it all fulls? Or, is there compression? Is there BG for backup data? Is it efficient? Because I could take.
Don't forget about network egress.
Well, yeah, egress costs. And, it's like I could create something that took 50 exports and I could pick little bits out of it and put them back. But like doing all of the other parts that people expect from backup is the hard part. And so do you define that, or is that part of the modules? Or
So the storage layer, the question about the storage layer is done by the platform. And this is a massive offload from the module development, right? But the module itself describes the schema of the application or the SaaS service it is backing up, right? So if, for example, if Jira has a project as a next logical level, the module describes the hierarchy of data within the application, right? And then provides on each object what are the capabilities that the module can do. It can be maybe just backup for some of them, which is okay. For some of them will be both backup and restore. And if it is restore defined as a capability within that kind of item or object, then you will see it in the granular recovery kind of a menu. So we don't have burned in the user interface anything you saw in the recovery workflow. It's all dynamic, right?
But explain to me Why would it be okay to have a module that has only backup and not restore?
Maybe just a folder container, right? So different SaaS applications, different organization of data, right?
Oh, I see. Okay.
If you want to basically reuse that data in other ways,
Yes.
rather than treat it as
Okay.
Because, for example, the module can be creative in a way how it describes the data of the application,
Okay.
right? Maybe not all of that is really original kind of a source data, but rather helping to organize the data in a more kind of a hierarchical fashion.
how do you manage versioning and deprecation of schemas and features on the product
On the platform side.
Right, yeah.
So the catalog, the versions, all of the stuff which is typical for a backup kind of a backend is done by the platform, right? So what the module does is discovery of the inner configuration, so the schema of the application, backup service, and the recovery service.
And how do the modules, how do the product deal with the fact that stuff on the system you want to recover to is still undergoing change data? So you're trying to restore a ticket because someone deleted part of it or their cat
Understand.
slept on their keyboard, and also changes are happening. So how do you manage that?
So that is dependent on the use case. I
Yeah,
can tell you for a
absolutely.
couple of use cases, for example, you cannot do in-place restore, for example, but you need to create another ticket, for example.
Got it.
Depends on the capabilities and the API
I
provides.
guess it depends, but I guess what I'm trying to get to is there is a way to manage
Of
that
course,
if you
of
need
course,
to do it.
yes.
There you go.
It's actually a great transition into the last bit that we're going to talk
Perfect.
about, because
You can get
another thing,
later.
you're. I thought it was 10. So Boston's expensive, but no. So one of the most important things too is some SaaS apps are going to have one admin, one king or queen of that application. When you get into places like Jira, where you have 100 developers, 300 developers, 500 developers, or even in the case of Zoom leverages Confluence for the entire organization to be able to manage knowledge. So you're dealing with a large amount of users, and there may be multiple people who require control. So one of the things that we made sure that across all these SaaS modules as well is that we established roles. Just like what we did on-prem with role-based access control, but it's extremely critical in the context of Jira to be able to say, who has full capabilities, who can perform the backup, how many of our developers do I actually trust to restore? Probably not the ones that delete stuff all the time, but you can make that decision as an admin. Now, within Jira, you're going to have IT managers running this, you're going to have some developers, maybe some very busy Scrum Masters doing so as well. But the goal is maximize the amount of people that can quickly restore so that a deletion of a bug that is in the middle of a very important sprint does not actually alter release periods or anything like that. That's the most important thing that we're focusing on as well, is not only being able to back it up, being able to perform granular restore, but that multiple people can do it, especially when you get to large scale enterprise level organizations. Now, with that being said, the other thing that we want to show you is Google Cloud. And when you think about how we speak to CIOs, how we speak to our customers, Simon alluded to this in the slide, was most people lifted and shifted. And within the organization, some elements were modernized, except they're only thinking it in a binary way. Like, yes, I have AWS. I think we run a script for EC2. Therefore, our AWS is protected. But the reality is that you have all of these additional microservices, database paths, and additional services within that place that most people actually forget to back up, or at least at the C level are not aware that are needed to be in compliance, but also to have granular restore.